that you can overstate the impact of the media and the anger against the media in this election. That's something the focus groups that, yes, the anger's there against our government, against our elected officials, against the rigged system, but also the media being biased on right and left about, I would say, 8 out of 10 people think that there's no hope for what the media puts in front of you, that it's just hopelessly biased.
For the past couple weeks, media coverage has been
just
deplorable.
Careful now.
No, it has been deplorable. It has been one-sided. It has been biased. It has been every bit as bad as media coverage of the Bernie Sanders phenomenon at the very beginning of the Democratic process. It was slanted and biased against Bernie Sanders. It was completely weighted for Hillary Clinton. Sanders was holding massive rallies that everybody ignored, that everybody tried to explain away, and it's because, and Mike Barnicle nailed it, Chris Eliza, we are all at the end coastal elites that didn't get Bernie Sanders and don't get why people would ever vote for Donald Trump.
I totally 100% agree that there is a disconnect between large numbers of the media who have backgrounds like mine, okay, and people who support Donald Trump. I think the most offensive thing to do, and Republicans have long been covered like this, is cover Republican candidates, including Donald Trump, like animals in a zoo. Like, oh, hey, look at this one. Look what he's doing over here.
Right.
The idea that Donald Trump supporters are, and Joe, you went through xenophobic, misogynist, racist. I think the one that's the most offensive to me is they're all stupid.
That's it.
Which is ridiculous.
Right.
It's been proven out time and time again. So I think there's a difference between saying, look, the message is resonating, covering the group that supports him in a way that is not condescending. Like, well, if they knew better, they wouldn't support him. And then
But I want to follow up on what Steve just said about how the Clinton campaign believed until 9 o'clock that they had a lock on this, that they were going to win. The fault of that actually lies with the media. And there's some self-reflection. Jim Rutenberg today writes a fascinating article where the New York Times editor and others basically come to terms with the fact that they stopped being journalists over the past month and began being cheerleaders and began being people who had a conclusion that they reached and then searched for facts to show that Hillary Clinton was a 92, 93, 99.999% chance winner of winning this campaign. Well,
how else would you explain it except that they were searching for those facts? I'm wondering, I mean, was it a big aberration or?
No, it wasn't a big aberration. It was there the entire time. They didn't want to hear it. They didn't want to see it. And I will just say it. When people like Mark, us, Nate Silver, even, and I want you guys to think about this, at the Times and the Washington Post, people I know and love, I want you to think about this, that when anybody even made the suggestion that Donald Trump could be elected president of the United States, it was their journalistic standards that were questioned. When Mark Halperin suggested that there was a pathway forward for Donald Trump as president of the United States, I won't name names because so many of them are my friends, and there's no need to name names now. The time for recrimination is over. But reporters at some of the best newspapers in the world, anchors at some of the best news networks in the world, mocked and ridiculed Mark Halperin. I want you to think about this. They mocked and ridiculed him not for saying that Donald Trump was going to be elected president of the United States. They mocked and ridiculed him for saying there was a slight chance that Donald Trump could be elected president of the United States. Now, if your job, you thought, and Jim Rutenberg did say back in August, the New York Times job and journalist's job now was to defeat Donald Trump. That was the editor of the New York Times confirmed that. If you really think that's your job, think about this. Think about what you did. You were trying to help Hillary Clinton defeat Donald Trump because you thought Donald Trump would be such a malignant cancer on our constitutional republic. But you did two things. The first thing you did is you put liberals and Democrats and independents who thought like you put them in a position where they were complacent, where they really did believe, not only in New York, but across America and the world, that Hillary Clinton had a 98.999% chance of being elected president of the United States. So that's the first thing you did. The second thing you did, which I think you're beginning to understand now from reading Jim Rutenberg's really good penetrating article, is you completely ignored the world, the elite cluster that you don't know. You had a complete blind spot, and you wanted to keep it that way. It was much easier for you to stay in Manhattan and say, you know what, they're only voting for Trump because they're racist and bigots. There's no way he can win because they're all just racist and bigots. Well, if you really do believe that, then you believe that 50 million people in America are racist and bigots. And if you really do believe that, then I take pity on you. If you don't understand what's going on out there. You don't understand what's going on. And let's face it, I don't understand what's going on out there. But you know what Mark and I did that you didn't do? You know what Mika did that you didn't do? We actually talked to people in Middle America. And they told us they were hurting, and they told us why they were voting for Trump. Mark, my God, Mark, you were with Donald Trump's campaign for the last, 72, 96 hours? And you saw crowds in Michigan and these other states, Wisconsin, Minnesota, crowds that you've never seen before.
Yeah, Sunday on a Circus, we're going to have the tour. Mark McKinnon and I covered Donald Trump for the last 3 days and talked to a lot of voters. And I think you hear those voices, as we heard all year when we traveled and actually talked to people supporting Trump. You said a lot of things I want to respond to. I just want to say one thing. I love the New York Times. I think it's a great institution.
By the way, I need to say this point of personal privilege. I love the New York Times. And I read it every day. I've said this time and time again. I have the greatest respect for the reporters over there. I don't know what I'd do. And I know a lot of conservatives are going to, I don't know what I would do without the New York Times. It's how I gauge.
It's not just the New York Times.
I agree, but
I love the Washington Post.
No, but look at the headline. Look at the headline of this story.
Look at the headline.
Look at the headline of this story. This is the day after.
Look at it.
A surprising underdog sweeping victory. And their headline is not disaffected Americans have a champion going to the White House or the country votes for fundamental change. The headline's about how disappointed the friends of the people who run the New York Times are about what's happened. I mean, it's amazing.
Democrats, students,
it's amazing to me that this is the headline of the New York Times.
Face the reality of
and I'm not picking on the Times, but it's a great example.
Look at this. Look at this.
Right.
This is staggering. It really is. Mark,
I mean, it's the onion.
This shows that the editors of the New York Times, who I have the greatest respect for them. They don't get it. This is actually
about them.
A Saturday Night Live skit. You went to a cocktail party the night before, and you decided to write this.
It's, when I thought Trump had a chance to lose, which I did, but I thought he had a chance to win it, I said to liberals, he's going to get 42 million votes. 42 million people are going to vote for him. What are they voting for? And this is their headline.
That's their newsroom.
If a Democratic candidate who was thought to, it said had a 10% chance of winning by the New York Times, had ended up winning and winning red states as Trump won blue states, I don't think that would have been the headline.
No.
And I'll just say again, the responsibility of journalists is to not report on their biases. It's to go out and understand the country through the prism of the election and say, why are people feeling the way they're feeling? And I just stunned